content targeted at young minds doesn't always hit the mark when it comes to being cute and not nightmare-inducing. When you look at examples like Anaconda, Catdog, Numberjacks, and more, it's a miracle more folks haven't had their psyche affected by what we watched growing up. If you blocked things out, now it's time to wake up your subconscious. Almost Naked Animals was a Canadian series that was originally produced for YTV that also aired on Cartoon Network in the US and many other places around the world, and the title alone just boggles my mind. The amount of focus groups and levels of management that this would have had to clear to make it to air. Out of all the pitches that got made back in 2010, this got the green light? Alrighty. So this show is set inside a tropical resort called the Banana Cabana. Try saying that 5 times fast. All of the cabana staff members and residents are funny animals who have shaved off their fur and wear only underclothes. An anthropomorphic dog named Howie is the manager and leader of this motley crew, and each episode follows Howie and his misfit staff having unusual adventures. And I'm sorry, I just can't get over the character design. And also the way the characters move just seems kind of bad and looks kind of robotic. I watched a couple of episodes last night to get an idea of the show, and honest to goodness, they gave me nightmares. The characters look like so out of it every episode. They're just ugly to look at, and like the really main character traits are just being obnoxious, annoying, and stupid. There's really no point in the show where it's really serious. It's just the same stupid humor and cracking some jokes that just didn't fly with me. The voices are extremely grating to listen to, and that's not on the voice actors. That's on the direction. I can't think of a single joke in the show that I found funny. The punchlines of each joke are just so unbelievably weak. You get what they're going for, but it's not funny. The rest of the jokes are predictable, lazy, which just kind of ruins the whole concept of this show. It's trying to be a comedy, and it's failing. So each episode of the show consists of kind of boring, uninspired, and predictable plot lines that just are kind of meh. The pacing's very out of place, and everything feels rushed. It also has a lot of elements of like rip-off SpongeBob SquarePants, where you've got the main character who is suspiciously optimistic like SpongeBob. Howie and his sister's relationship feels similar to that of Plankton and Mr. Krabs, and the Banana Cabana is the Krusty Krab. Wearing underwear could lead one to believe these wacky cartoon creatures are hiding something under those garments, and that's just so weird for a show targeted towards a younger audience. I'm actually surprised the show was successful enough to run for 3 seasons, seeing how horribly it's aged. Probably the most popular title on our list today, Catdog was a creative 90s Nickelodeon cartoon featuring a half-cat, half-dog creature who gets into wacky hijinks as its prissy cat half and rambunctious dog half are forever at odds. Some of the reasons that Catdog was super weird are inherent in the concept. A cat and a dog attached at the stomach is unnatural, even before you start thinking about the implications. But those implications are actually kind of terrifying. So like, how do they go to the bathroom? No one knows for sure, but there's no possible explanation that isn't horrific. But the weird premise is not what makes this show creepy. Rather, a handful of episodes that decided, hey, you know what, let's send some folks to therapy for the rest of their lives. Cat and dog spend a disturbing amount of time just hanging out inside of each other's mouths. In one iconic clip, Winslow walks in on the two of them standing in their room while Cat is, just rummaging around inside Dog's mouth. In another episode, Cat attempts to sneakily brush Dog's teeth by crawling inside his own mouth, traveling up through its body towards the dog half and exiting the dog's mouth. At this point, Cat is somehow inside out, with exposed muscle, vein, and eye tissue that is both medically infeasible and Hellraiser levels of disturbing. Okay, one more before I move on. Meat, Dog's friends, is one of the worst episodes. In this one, Dog realizes for the first time that meat comes from animals. And this is a shocking realization for many young humans, but Dog is supposed to be an adult. He reacts by deciding to become a vegetarian. Cat thinks that it's a terrible idea because dogs are carnivores. Dog has a nightmare of a hallucination in which the ghosts of meat-based foods he's eaten appears. As the episode unfolds, everything from vegetables to rocks tell him they're friends, not food. Eventually, Dog goes completely off the deep end and tries to eat Cat, since Cat is his brother and not a friend. After a terrifying sequence where Dog snaps, growls, and tries to cook his sibling, the whole thing is resolved. Gee, thanks Catdog for making all of our brains explode. Considering Anaconda never shoved its Canadianness in your face the same way shows like Yvonne of the Yukon and Being Ian would, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was an American production. But the animated monstrosity of Sue Rose and Joanna Ferrone had one trait unique to Canadian media, a bizarrely unique art style that was equal parts stunning and horrifying. This series was actually quite popular around the turn of the century, with 65 episodes made and broadcasted in 35 countries around the world. It even had a super weird short before Digimon the movie, where all of the residents from Angeles Town lined up to watch the movie. So this show chronicles the life and times of an imaginative girl and her adventures in and outside of elementary school. It was a show about friendship, creativity, and finding the bright side highlight of life whenever Angela's rival Nanette would rain on her parade in broken French. Angela is most often joined by her best friends Gina Lash, Johnny Stereotype, and more. And the show was surprisingly quite violent. In each episode, the story arc is interrupted with a dream sequence in which Angela conjures imaginative and often gory ways to get rid of her nemesis. She imagines her getting injured in an ice skating trick gone wrong, fed to piranhas, and other things I can't even repeat. Decode Entertainment used black and white photos of actual real-life faces and blended them with cartoon bodies to create this whole show. It was almost like those paper dolls where you cut and paste outfits onto a cartoon's body, but it was only creepier. The 2D arts and crafts style was actually achieved through a state-of-the-art 3D program. As for why everybody looked black and white and gray when the rest of the world was in color, I don't have answers. Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Folks was an animated horror show with a claymation intro and numerous cautionary tales where folks would receive extremely ruthless comeuppances for flaws of heavily varying seriousnesses. This show originated in the UK but was broadcast worldwide, and the episodes were adapted from a book series of the same name by Jamie Ricks. So each episode had a framing device set in an old movie theater named the Squeam Screen, with its creepy caretaker and his spider companion Spindleshanks. The adapted stories are short movies on film reels that the caretaker screens from the projector into the theater, after he finishes talking to the audience about morals and proverbs that are later going to relate to the episode. Speaking of which, in one awful episode called The Barber of Civil, there's a hairdresser who chopped off the tongues of folks who were being rude and foul-mouthed. And if that doesn't sound terrifying, it was weird to watch. Another highlight, a boy who tormented spiders, and in retaliation, they entered his body and spun webs along his ribs. Yeah, we're moving on before I start jumping from fear. And finally for today, we've got Numberjacks. This was a British animated series that focused on math. About 67 episodes were produced. So the Numberjacks are a group of anthropomorphic numbers who team up on a mission. You've got turquoise 5, yellow 6, dark blue 4, and pink 3. They go about their everyday lives inside their sofa until they get a call from real-life agents who report problems that need solving. So then you get one or two of the Numberjacks who fly out on location to investigate. They have to work out how to put things right and thwart the dastardly intentions of the 5 meanies. So while the Numberjacks characters are kind of off-putting on their own, there's one meanie who takes the cake for most terrifying. Yes, he's live action, but I think we can make an exception. The Number Taker is male, the largest meanie, and always silent. He causes trouble by taking numbers and numbers of things, and the sleeves of his long white coat hide various attachments. We're talking vacuum cleaner, a magnet, a net, a hook, and a number sucker upper. Also, just look at him. He's freaky even for grown-ups. He's played by the same actor who was a White Walker in Game of Thrones, for crying out loud. Into my nightmares goes this show. And that's it for me once again, folks. Be sure to let us know in the comments if you want a part 2, because I have so many more shows I could talk about. Other than that, I've been Alexa, your resident ookie spooky girly. See y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.